Mark DeRosa might have just made the dumbest possible managerial decision ever for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic, and somehow he didn't even know it. Let me give you some background. You see, USA had won 5-3 over Mexico in their second-to-last WBC game on March 9th. At that time, USA's WBC record was 3-0 with one game to go versus Italy on the evening of March 10th. On the morning of March 10th, Team USA's manager, Mark DeRosa, went on MLB Network's show called Hot Stove to discuss lineup and strategy, among other things, and said this.
You guys get the emotional win yesterday. You've already kicked through to the quarterfinals. What do we expect today? What's the lineup going to look like? You got 9 bodies ready to roll today, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to get some guys off their feet, no question about it. I'd like to get Goldie a start, and he has been awesome, just a leader of men behind the scenes with Aaron Judge. I'd like to get him in there. I'd like to get Gunnar in there again. Ton of respect for Italy. It's weird. We want to win. We want to win this game, even though our tickets punched to the quarterfinals, because Mexico plays Italy actually tomorrow. So the way the schedule lines up, this is an important game for us.
Now, I do want to clarify something important. The first person to actually comment that USA had supposedly made it to the finals was Matt Vasgersian, the guy sitting on the right in the Expos varsity jacket. But yes, DeRosa, Team USA's literal manager, confirmed that USA had made it to the quarterfinals, which they had not at the time after they beat Team Mexico. I also want to clarify something else. I do know that Mark DeRosa said, quote, "We want to win this game," end quote, as well as, quote, "This is an important game for us," end quote, referring to the game versus Italy on March 10th. But those quotes were more through the lens of, hey, it would be nice if we secure the 1 seed, versus the lens of, we need to win this game, otherwise there's a chance we don't advance. The fact still stands that Mark did not know that Team USA could face elimination if they lost to Team Italy. And as I will address later in the video, DeRosa not knowing this information became a huge problem. Now, I know there is not one universal meaning for the sentence, "our ticket is punched," the sentence Mark DeRosa used to describe USA supposedly advancing to the quarterfinals after the win over Mexico, but I think we can agree that the definition on screen is a pretty accurate depiction. Keep this meaning in your head, as it will come in handy later. And the last thing I wanted to say is that after beating Team Mexico, Team USA did not secure a spot in the quarterfinals, if that has not been already made clear. Winning that game versus Mexico made it less likely that they could be knocked out, but not impossible. So Mark DeRosa was wrong in assuming that USA had clinched a spot in the quarterfinals. This leads me into the problem. Mark DeRosa went into the game versus Italy on March 10th thinking that the United States had already clinched a spot in the quarterfinals of the WBC. What's wrong with that? What's wrong is that he proceeded to bench Alex Bregman, Byron Buxton, Bryce Harper, Bryce Terang, and Kyle Raleigh, 5 of his usual starters. It was already in the 7th inning when he started to make some offensive substitutions, which means it was probably in the 7th inning when D-Row realized that if Team USA lost the game versus Italy, they could face elimination. And since the score was 8-1 Italy heading into the bottom of the 7th, USA did not have much of a fighting chance. The U.S. did not go down without a fight, though, making the final score 8-6 Italy, since U.S. scored 1 run in the 6th, 3 runs in the 7th, 1 run in the 8th, and 1 run in the 9th. But there was a very good chance that Team USA could have won that game with all their A-team players starting in the lineup and on the field. And it's very likely that manager Mark DeRosa would have rolled out the best players on the roster had he known that losing that game meant the team might possibly be eliminated. The worst part is that he tries to downplay the situation like he just misspoke. Here's a clip of an interview after the loss to Team Italy where he says some pretty crazy things.
I was on Hot Stove with a couple buddies today and completely misread the calculations. We knew that Mexico was going to play Italy and then running all the numbers with if we lost tonight with the runs allowed and runs scored and outs. So I just misspoke.
I find 3 things ironic about that clip. Number 1 is that some random guy on X, I will put his username up on the screen so you can follow him if you want, went through all the possibilities of the tiebreakers after USA lost and what could happen if Italy wins and what could happen if Mexico wins. Because remember, after USA lost to Italy, Italy had to play Mexico. That is something Team USA's literal manager could not even calculate correctly, and some random dude on X just calculated it perfectly. Number 2 is that even the players did not know that they had not advanced yet to the quarterfinals after the win over Mexico. Where were the leaders in the clubhouse, such as Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge, and Paul Goldschmidt? All the players were reportedly partying into the night and woke up very tired the next morning for the game versus Italy. DeRosa later said that it is because they hadn't beaten Team Mexico in 20 years, but personally, I just don't think that the players did their own homework on whether or not they had advanced. Number 3 is that Mark later changes his story. Yes, that's right. I think it was the following morning when he changed his story from "I misspoke" to the following.
Yeah, it's just an overly confident statement on Hot Stove, period, the end. And it's my fault. I felt good about where we were after Mexico. Listen, us hanging out in the clubhouse is everything I ever dreamed of creating. You got to buy into this thing super quick and try and create a team. And for those players to invite the coaches in and for us to spend time together and enjoy a huge win that we hadn't had in 20 years was something that, I looked around the room and it was super special to me. We did not lose sight of the fact that we had to go out and play well against Italy. They played a hell of a game. They smacked us in the mouth early. They got up big. We went into that game prepared to win it. I think there's a couple false narratives out there, but no, I was well aware that we had to win that game based on all the scenarios that could take place. I mean, they went in 2-0, we went in 2-0. We knew they were playing Mexico the next day. We knew there was tiebreaker rules involved. So I can understand the questions about lineup and pitching situations. We were up against, a lot of guardrails with regards to teams. The deployment of certain relievers, how many pitches they can use, whether they can go back out, whether they can clean up innings, and you're just trying to piece it together in real time.
Yeah, I don't buy that. And frankly, I don't think any MLB fan who knows about the situation is buying that lame, nonsense excuse. In my opinion, it's more likely that he did not calculate correctly, played the B squad versus Italy, only to realize that they could possibly be eliminated if they suffered a loss to Team Italy. He then found himself in a tough spot and tried to do damage control so that he would not look like he didn't know whether his own team had advanced or not. Some people even speculate that he wants to be a big league manager and didn't want to look bad in front of millions of people. Any way you want to chalk it up, it's a very bad look for Mark DeRosa. From this whole situation, even jokes like this have come to fruition. And honestly, he kind of deserves it. I don't really like to diss on any player or coach, but if you do not know what's going on with your own team, that is on you, and in my opinion, grounds for said player or coach to be made fun of a little bit. You could argue that since USA has made it to the championship, DeRosa's big blunder doesn't even matter. But I would argue that it does for 3 small reasons. Number 1 is that since Italy beat us by 2 runs, that gives Venezuela confidence because they just beat the team that beat the US, and they beat them by 2 runs to make it to the final game. Venezuela now has the adrenaline coming into the championship game versus the US. And all Team USA fans have to hope that the confidence that Team Venezuela is boasting doesn't propel them to an offensive breakout or pitching masterclass in the biggest game of 2026 so far. Number 2 is that with the US having to go through Canada and the Dominican Republic, all of our players are tired and our worst starting pitchers on the bump in Nolan McLean against Venezuela for the last game of the WBC. If we had secured that 1 seed by taking care of Italy, we would have gone through significantly weaker competition and would be much more rested and ready for the 1v1 showdown versus Team Venezuela. Number 3 is that if Mark hadn't made such a stupid mistake, there would not be media coverage about it and it would not be embarrassing for the USA team. Believe it or not, stuff like that can mess with a player's head, even a major league baller. And that is just the last thing anyone on Team USA needs. even if Team USA ends up winning the match against Venezuela, it's still a very bad look for DeRosa, Team USA, and the sport in general. At the end of the day, the World Baseball Classic is about players from all different countries and backgrounds competing for one singular title. And having the U.S. manager look like the most clueless manager out of any in sports history just does not bode well for anyone, including Mark DeRosa. If you like this content, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button underneath this video. For more content like this, click the video on screen. I'm Joshua Crum of YoungInsider.com. That's your breakdown, and thanks for watching.